Hello and welcome back to ESBR Boxing. Delighted to be joined by my esteemed colleague Gregory Doyle tonight as we will be looking at our final predictions for Conor Benn fighting Peter Dobson. Greg, first off, thank you for joining me tonight once again. We'll just go straight into it with yourself. With this, obviously Conor Benn has called out pretty much every top 15 fighter and said he'll fight between sort of 140 to 154. What do you make of Conor Benn now fighting a relatively unknown Peter Dobson?
Thanks for having me as always, Owen. It's a really interesting one, isn't it? Because I'm one of the guys that, although we found out there was one or two adverse findings in Conor Benn's last opponent, I couldn't believe the way that the fella stood up to the shots that Conor Benn hit him with, because I think Conor Benn is a very, very hard puncher.
Hmm.
The move over to Las Vegas, as I say, and he's fighting an American fighter. I think is a smart movement by Matchroom. I haven't personally heard of Peter Dobson. I have watched him over the past few days. Just seems like your typical rough, kind of tough American. Nothing overwhelmingly great about him, but it's a fight in Las Vegas against an undefeated American fighter. So I think we just have to take it at face value.
Do you think it's a bit of a tough one, this, but do you think this fight is happening because either people didn't want to fight Conor Benn based off potentially ability and performances, or do you think some of like the top 15 guys that he's calling out just aren't interested in Conor Benn because he's potentially bad news?
I think it's a bit of both. Owen, I do rate Conor Benn, but I wouldn't be throwing him in with the top 15 as of yet. Well, maybe I would say the top 10 I wouldn't be throwing him in with as of yet. I think he's a good fighter. I think he punches hard. I think he's good head movement. But I also know that there's maybe a few opponents out there that have got their doubts on things that have happened with Conor Benn and if they'd be fighting a clean fighter. So I think it's a bit of both, but I do think that he's maybe being pushed at the right pace, except the only reason I think there's been a little bit of a hurdle is because he had time out of the ring because of the whole scandal. Before that, he was fighting guys like Chris Algieri, Chris Van Heerden, and it seems so the opposition is taking a little bit of a step back now. But it may just be this fight, the last two fights, and then we could be looking at bigger names after this. And I think going on what Eddie Hearn said at the press conference yesterday, I think that's the plan.
Yeah, I think everything you said there is more than fair. Obviously, bringing some previous opponents in Van Heerden and Algieri have sort of been a world title level contention. Do you think now, though, just sort of touching on that point again, Conor Benn will be looking at going to 23-0. I know he had some obviously time out of the ring, where he had the adverse findings. He says that he cleared himself. British Boxing Board of Control aren't interested in that. The situation's still a bit of a mess, to be honest, which is obviously why he's fighting over in Vegas. Much longer do you think he's got before the questions are asked of why is he not fighting the top 15?
It's a good question because I think a lot of people, I understand, Owen, before I'm trying to say this and not sound too cryptic. Conor Benn went from being a fighter who was basically struggling with Cedric Peanut. He looked okay, like he was improving, and then all of a sudden it seemed that a lot of things clicked and he started banging these guys out in a big way. People are asking questions, well, how was he able to bang people out in the way that he was? But he's a relatively young guy. He's going to develop into man strength, etc. He is going to get more experience and get more confident. But I do think that they will start stepping up the opposition after this. I think it may not be the step up that people will want, but I think they will start trying to get Conor Benn, people who have maybe been world champion in the last 2 years, maybe lost their title, and take things from there. But I do think there'll be a step up after this if he wins.
Yeah, I think that's more than fair. I think, we see so many fighters where padded records are discussed, if for our loyal viewers and those that seen it. Obviously, we discussed that with Jaime Munguia, head of the John Ryder fight about padded records. And I think Conor Benn's definitely in danger of becoming one of those fighters. But that remains to be seen. We have to bring you to that point of the video, Greg, where I do have to ask yourself who wins and how.
It's a very good shout, Owen, because I had a look at both fighters again last night. I was actually watched quite late into the night. I went looking for footage of Peter Dobson. As I said to you off camera, it reminds me a little bit of Willie Monroe, who fought Gennady Golovkin, just quite compact, plods forward with a quite tight guard. But the only thing that I've noticed with him is when he goes back, that guard slightly comes down to about here, and he's leaving this area to be caught. I think Conor Benn takes him out inside 4 rounds tomorrow night. I just think that he hits too hard. I don't think Dobson is going to have been in with anyone that can hit as hard as Conor Benn. And I just think that, yeah, I think it'll be a statement performance.
Yeah, I think that's all more than fair. I would tend to agree with that. I don't personally as well, because I don't think Ben has any other choice then but to stop Peter Dobson. I broke down his record off camera. His best win was a fighter who was 16-0, and in those 16 fights, he'd fought 5 fighters with winning records. So that says the level of opposition that Peter Dobson's been in with. Let us know what you think in the comments below, guys. Who should Conor Benn fight next? Will Conor Benn knock out Peter Dobson? Will it go to points again? Has the adverse findings when he failed a drug test completely affected his career, and has his power gone? As I say, let us know in the comments below. Like, comment, subscribe. And once again, Greg, thank you for joining me tonight.